So welcome everyone to this public forum concerning City Ordinance 16690, which is commonly referred to as the restaurant tax. This forum today has two purposes. One is to educate the public about the discussions that have been taking place related to this restaurant tax. And two, to hear public feedback about the proposed changes to this ordinance. We want this to be a good discussion today. We want to hear your feedback. It's meant to be a productive forum. And more than anything today, we want all voices to be heard. So please don't leave until you've asked whatever questions are on your mind or that we've clarified anything that may be unclear to you at this time. I would say after all of us just want what's best for this community. We just have different opinions about or viewpoints about how we get there. So this forum is meant to be something productive for all of us, and hopefully at the end of this forum, we'll all have a better understanding of where we all stand. This forum is being recorded today, and it'll be placed on our website as quickly as possible after this meeting so that you can go back and view it if you need to. So I want to introduce some people in this room that I've invited to help me be able to answer some questions that may come up that I'm not able to answer. So if I can, just have Tracy introduce yourself, please.
I'm Tracy Pierce. I'm the tourism director for Mount Sterling Government.
And Eric.
Eric Jones. I'm a member of the Parks and Rec Board. Okay,
and so we've got a lot of information to pass. If there's something that I can't answer, I'll certainly reach out to one of these two individuals to help me answer your inquiries or questions. And if I can't answer it today, then I will take down your information and do the best I can to get back with you and get you the information. So how did we get here? So I'm going to start from the basics, okay? Per Kentucky Revised Statutes, which is Kentucky law, some cities are authorized to institute a restaurant tax. I'm sorry about the feedback. I don't think that's ours.
I think that caused it when I sneezed.
Is the mic on?
Might be the mic on.
Just for now, maybe.
Chief to the rescue. Thank you, Chief. So let me start again. Per Kentucky Revised Statutes, which is Kentucky law, some cities are authorized to institute a restaurant tax. So this is not to be confused with a hotel-motel tax. It's a totally separate discussion. A hotel-motel tax we do have in place that's applicable to the whole county, and that's to help fund tourism. So what we're talking about today is the restaurant tax. Restaurant tax is authorized of cities of a certain size. The Department for Local Government maintains a registry. Can we unplug that, please?
Yeah, we had that noise earlier this morning.
I apologize to everyone. So the Department for Local Government maintains a registry of what cities qualify to institute this tax. Not all cities across the state of Kentucky may institute this tax. So only cities of a certain size may put this tax in place. So those cities were formally classified as 4th or 5th class cities. So I want you to kind of picture in your mind, prior to 2015, you put every city by population size in a list. The bigger cities are class 1, class 2, class 3. They kind of work their way down. Class 4 and 5 are cities that are of similar size to Mount Sterling. Okay? The reason this was in place is because over time the Kentucky legislature gave certain cities powers or authorities that they may not grant to others. I really apologize to everyone. This has never happened before.
It was happening this morning.
There's some feedback somewhere.
We moved the mic up. I came down there.
Yeah, just move it back. Okay, so for instance, certain cities may have term limits. Certain cities may have certain protections for some of their public employees, certain size cities. Certain cities there's just something up in here causing feedback. I'm sorry. Okay, so certain cities could institute a restaurant tax. So now those kind of classes have went away, and we only have two classes in the state of Kentucky. There is a first class or a home rule, two classes. But the way Kentucky looks at it is whatever rules were previously in place, that's the rules we go by as far as restaurant tax. So the fourth and fifth class cities can institute that. So for example, Lexington can't institute a restaurant tax. They didn't fall into that class of city which had that authority. So interestingly enough, counties don't have the legal authority to institute a restaurant tax either. So that's why you have certain counties or certain restaurants outside of our city limits that a restaurant tax would not be applicable toward, because it's not the county's fault. The county can't institute that tax. No county can. And then the restaurant tax, I would say, is a very positive thing for the city of Mount Sterling. This gives us revenue to be able to fund tourism or recreational activities, and keeps us from having to use occupational taxes or property taxes or insurance premium taxes that we receive to help fund tourism or recreation. So, in my opinion, you can have your own opinions, but in my opinion, I think it's a good thing that we have this avenue, this opportunity in our community to be able to raise revenue to help fund nice things in our community. So under Kentucky law, that list of cities I talked about, 231 total. They're all listed in this Kentucky Legal Handbook. 231 cities have the ability to levy a restaurant tax, but only about 50 did. We're one of those 50. Of those 50 that can institute that tax, 37 of them have 3% in place. So we're currently at 2% of gross receipts of sales, okay? And then some have, 1%. The state average, if you're interested, is 2.7%. That's the state average for what a restaurant tax is, or what a restaurant tax in place would be for cities. We can only legally go up to 3%. So right now we're at 2. You can only legally, by law, go up to 3. Pam, would you care to pass that around to folks? That's just a list of cities that institute a restaurant tax. I would say, I want everybody to know, all revenue, once again, that's collected from this must be spent on tourism or recreational activities. It can't be spent on anything else. Ordinance 16690 that was passed on May 15th, 1990, went into effect July 1st, 1990. It instituted a 2% tax on all gross retail sales of restaurants doing business inside of the city limits of Mount Sterling. I would note now for everyone that this applies to food trucks or mobile food sales. And if you're wondering what this tax looks like and you don't have a clear understanding, it's 2 cents on every dollar. Okay? 2 cents on every dollar. So for every dollar spent in a restaurant, there'd be 2 cents added onto that. For $10, that's 20 cents. For $100, that'd be $2. Okay? So you have in your head kind of what that restaurant tax is. This tax is a usage or a consumption type tax, which basically means if you don't eat out, then you don't pay this tax. So some people really prefer this type of tax because it only applies to you if you're spending money in the restaurant. And I would note the restaurants are not being taxed. This is not a tax on our restaurants. The consumers who go in to spend money are the ones that are paying that tax. The restaurants are simply collecting the tax. and then turning it over to the city. This is on all prepared or ready-to-eat foods. This tax does not apply to most items you find in a grocery store, so if you're walking down an aisle and pulling a can of beans off the shelf, that's not a restaurant tax. But if you're walking in a grocery and you go back to the deli and they make you a prepared meal that you would take with you in a container that is, a ready-to-eat type container for immediate consumption, then that tax may apply. So yes, some of our grocery stores are also paying a restaurant tax depending on what they're providing there. But in your mind, just think, dine-in, carry-out, catering, food trucks, all of those within the city limits would pay that tax. There's nowhere in this ordinance, 16690, that states the tax was to go away if any conditions were met. You can go on the front page of our website and download that ordinance if you wish to, and you can see there's no sunset clause in that ordinance. This tax may be lowered by council. This tax could be repealed by council. If that whole ordinance was repealed, then that could certainly go away. But that's the city council's decision to make. Per that ordinance, all monies collected are used to promote tourism, convention, or recreational activities. The city of Mount Sterling only collects this revenue, so we don't keep any of it. Take it, we put it in a fund, and then quarterly we distribute that out to the entities that receive it. It is distributed directly to tourism, and that's because the KRS says the money has to be distributed to tourism. From tourism, that gets distributed out to several different entities who have all made cases or claims that they have a need for a portion of that restaurant tax. I would note, because I've seen, and I'm going to be talking about some of the social media things we see, that this is not an optional tax. So I've seen that posted that restaurants have an option. It's not optional. Restaurants must, if they're within the city limits and prepare meals, pay that tax. And I would say our restaurants 99% of the time pay that right on time. We generally do not have any issues whatsoever with our restaurants paying that. The only times that a restaurant may be late is sometimes they'll change owners, they'll get accounting change, the different accountants. There's always circumstances to where they may have not been able to pay on time, but we as a city work with every restaurant, and if they don't pay, then we certainly stay on them until they're able to follow through and then pay that tax. Because after all, if they're collecting it, they have a legal requirement to turn that back over to the city as per the ordinance. So we anticipate this revenue to be about $1.15 million this year from the restaurant tax. Someone had submitted a question online and said, what does it look like over the past 2 or 3 years? So last year was 1.15 million. Generally you project based on what you received the previous year. The year prior was 1.1 million in revenue. The year prior to that, it was 1 million in revenue. And I would remind you that's 2% on all gross receipts. So we often get questions wanting to know about specific restaurants and what they're paying. And I would tell you today, I can't tell you what a specific restaurant pays because that's protected information. So for example, some of you are paying an occupational tax to the county in here. The county can't release what you're paying to the public because that wouldn't be fair to your business to release your net profits reporting to the county. So I cannot tell you what any of the restaurants are individually paying just because that's protected information. All I can give you is the whole, okay? And the whole is what I had just reported, that 1.15 million is what was collected. A breakdown of kind of who gets what. Parks and Recreation last year, it was $1,080,000 roughly. That's about 94% of what was collected overall. Tourism, $30,000. Great Area Regional Arts Center, $15,000, Airport, $15,000, and then the Historical Society and the Museum received about $10,000, or they received $10,000, I'm sorry. Those percentages are historical and predate my term in office. So when something's working, what's that old saying? You don't try to fix it, right? So what those percentages or those numbers have worked for quite some time, so we've had discussions about possibly changing that. I know people wish to continue having those discussions, and they're all good, but right now, that's the breakdown of who is getting what with that restaurant tax. The common denominator with all that activity is that every one of those entities are providing recreational or tourism-related activities. Parks and Rec alone has identified to the city of Mount Sterling $5.2 million in wants and needs. So you can sit and argue what's a want and what's a need, right? But the reality is, we as a city and a county have established a Parks and Recreation Commission to run Parks and Rec. And we have a requirement as a city and a county to try to provide them with the revenue they need in order to provide the services that the public is requesting of them. So, not only has Parks and Rec asked for money, Gateway Regional Arts Center has asked for revenue because they have several long-term projects. The airport has a new terminal. They're continuing to grow, which is great. The Historical Society is wanting to expand. I'm not putting Tracy on the spot, but Tracy has a lot of big ideas that she'd like to do for tourism. She does a great job with the budget she has, bringing in different acts, people to play in the community, helping sponsor events that are taking place. But certainly Tracy is wanting to grow also and do more for this community to bring people in and to promote this wonderful community that we have. So I'm just going to tell you, the city can't come up with $5.2 million. I cannot. There is no way. We collect in property taxes a year right around 1.2. So think about that. They need $5.2 million. Let's say we split that in half with the county and agree both. We're going to come up with, what would that be? 2.6 million roughly. So we're going to come up with that. That's 2 years of property taxes that we collect. So those are some pretty staggering numbers for your local governments to try to dig into our budgets and try to make up shortfalls just in Parks and Rec alone. So what the proposed change is, or the discussion that we've been having, is regarding a change in the receipts of the tax from 2% of gross receipts to 3%. And as I mentioned before, 3% is the max that can be collected by law. So under this proposal, under our discussions, the new rate would go into effect January of 2027. So it's nothing immediate, and you'd say, well, why would you wait? Well, to be fair to the restaurants, because it's not fair to a restaurant to change the rules in the middle of the tax year. So that's why we thought that it would be better to wait if we were to do this until 2027. And you don't want to mess up their current year tax reporting. The projected increase in revenues, if we raise this from 2% to 3%, would be about $575,000 per year. So, when I kind of mentioned about the restaurant tax before, and that 2 cents on every dollar, I went out and got a combo meal for breakfast last week. The receipt was $7.99 total. It was $7.39 for the meal. It was 45 cents to the state because they have 6% sales tax, and then the 2% was 15 cents. I paid 15 cents on that meal, and that goes to tourism and recreation related activities. Under the new rate, if we were to raise this to 3%, then that meal would now cost $8.06. It'd still be $7.39 for the meal, 45 cents for your state tax, and then 22 cents for the restaurant tax. So it's a change of 7 cents there in that meal. So if I did that 10 times a month, then what's that look like? If that was the only place I ate out, that's 70 cents more a month I'm paying over a course of a year, that's $8.40. So that would be different for everybody. I eat out probably 3 times a week, so I'm gonna pay a little more. I've had somebody contact me that said they eat out once every 6 months, so, you know, it's not gonna impact them as much. But I just say that to help you kind of visualize in your head what that change looks like. So I don't take any of this lightly. No one wants to talk about raising any taxes in the community because we know those are very difficult conversations and we don't want to have them. But given the other options to make up the shortfalls in this community, I feel myself that this is the best one. I don't think property tax, I don't think placing the burden on workers through an occupational tax or business owners or through property owners through a property tax is the fairest way to do this. I think the restaurant tax is a good option because it's consumption based and it's not placing all the responsibility on one party. We're spread loading that around. Everybody pays if you eat out, to include those outside your community. Will you please pass that out? So I've just got a chart that I was going to give you some examples. We have a company that we have contracted, that we've got a membership to, and we share that with the Chamber and Tourism and Parks and Rec and the county. It's called Placer AI, and it's a company that collects data. And it basically goes in and counts people, and it's counting people through this. So this right here is 40353 because that's where I live, in 40353. If you live in Jeffersonville, that's 40337. Okay? So this handout, if you could just bear with me, I'm almost done. We're going to open this up for questions and comments. So that first part is who's eating where. I picked out 5 restaurants just through all parts of town. 3 of them fast food, 2 of them sit down. That first restaurant, 920,000 total visits for the year. Unique visitors, 118,000, almost 119,000 visitors. So some people eat out more than once, right, at a restaurant. That's why that 118 is unique visitors. Okay. 40353, 49.7% of the people that ate at that restaurant were from 40353. If I added Jeffersonville in there, that's 58.6% of the people that ate at that restaurant are from Montgomery County. So everybody else, that 41.4%, are outside of our community. It could be a neighboring county, it could be somebody that's driving from Washington, D.C. to LA that just chooses to stop off here and get something at one of our restaurants. But the outside visitors, when you take those numbers, are 49,142 that ate at that restaurant and are paying for our tourism and recreation related activities outside this county. They're helping pay for our nice things. Restaurant 2, you can kind of see those numbers. I won't go through them again, but outside visitors, 34,465. Let's look at a sit-down restaurant, D. 290,000 people, or 290,000 visits at that restaurant. 109,000 of those were visitors. Adding up 40353 and 40337, that's 37%. That means 63% of the people that ate in that sit-down restaurant, or 68,670 people, are from outside of Montgomery County. That 68,000 are helping pay for our parks, our tourism, our arts center, airport, and historical society. Who's using our parks? Look at those numbers there, please. Box Park, total visits, 63.9 thousand, 25,000 unique visitors. 60% are from 40353, adding in Jeffersonville, that's 68%. So all others, 28.8% of the people that visited Box Park last year are from outside our community. So we have people coming in from other counties. I have seen buses from other counties bringing kids in because those counties think our parks are pretty nice. And they bring their kids in to play over here. And might I add, I'm only counting phones. So if a kid don't have a phone, it's not registering on these numbers I'm giving. Easy Walker Park, 79,000 visitors. You can see 52% are from Montgomery County, 48% from outside the county. That's unique visitors, 38,000 people that enjoyed Easy Walker Park from outside of Montgomery County. And then the Mound, which is relatively new data, but we had 2,472 people from outside of Montgomery County enjoying the nice things that we're trying to provide to our community here. On the bottom, I've just got some different talking points, but the one that on the far right-hand side, if you take the top 10 restaurants in this county where people spend their money, 9 of those are collecting a restaurant tax. And that restaurant tax is going right back in to help fund tourism and recreation activities. So that's a good thing. All these people that are coming in, these outside visitors are coming in and visiting our parks and enjoying our parks, and then they go and hopefully spend a little money in our community, and it helps fund those parks, helps fund our tourism-related activities. So just wanted you to have that, and we can talk about that more if you've got any questions. But the last thing that I would say, and I just wanted to open it up to you, and thank you so much for being patient, because I'm trying to provide you the data up front, hopefully to answer some of your questions. I just want to say my feedback here at City Hall on this, I've had one phone call. One phone call. And that phone call was from an individual who said, the penny's going away and they're rounding up in the restaurants. And I would much rather give my penny or two away, that rounding up, I'd much rather give it to my parks than I would to a restaurant. That was that person's feedback. I appreciated that. That's not something we really talked about too much. I got 3 emails for the parks and for the proposed raise to the tax, gave me very detailed explanations of why they were for it. I had 4 emails sent to me objecting to a raise in the restaurant tax. And then I've had a dozen other conversations with people just trying to seek more info, which is why I felt the need to provide you with as much info. We have not done a good job as a city of explaining the restaurant tax. So that's part of the reason I've talked so long. So I promise I'm about ready to wrap this up. Some comments I saw on social media that I just want to address right now. One, there's no sunset clause in this ordinance anywhere. This ordinance was to go away when Easy Walker Park was paid. Number 2, restaurant tax doesn't fund roads. So I've seen some people say, if we collect it, you're just going to put it toward roads or sidewalks. It does not. I've explained that. It doesn't go toward that infrastructure. The tax does not fund the boys' high school basketball program. That was on social media. Comments about the city continues to raise property taxes. City has not raised any property taxes. Our property taxes are at the lowest rate they've been since 2008. Park concessions did not take in $1 million last year. Eric? Okay, so they did not. If park concessions were taking in $1 million, we wouldn't even be having this discussion here. I saw comments that this is an honor system who pays the tax. That's not correct. I've already told you our restaurants are very good community partners and they do a task with them. Saw comments that the only reason we're raising this is to paint more murals downtown. The murals are not paid for through the restaurant tax. And then another comment that no restaurants will ever want to come to our community if we raise this tax. Moorhead's at 3%. They just announced a new restaurant this week. So I'm sorry, but I don't buy that argument either. Restaurants do their homework. They know where they're going to make their investments, and they know if they can provide a good service and turn a profit, then they're going to make an investment in the community, whether a restaurant tax is there or not. Because there's 37 other communities that have a bunch of restaurants too, and they're going to theirs. So, I provided you a lot, you all been very patient and kind, and thank you for allowing me to do that. So now I would just like to open it up to you to ask any questions you have, make any comments you want. This is all a friendly discussion we're having to just try to better understand each other, and I hope you better understand what the city's position is right now after my talk. So, thank you very much, and I'll open it up to whoever wishes to speak. And if you do, I would just say, well, I don't know how good that microphone is. We'll do our best. I just want to make sure we capture everybody's comments. So. Yes, sir.
What other revenue does Parks and Rec raise like during last year? How much was their gross income on other revenue?
On other revenue, yeah, a good question. Aaron, do you have that off the top of your head?
With budget. A lot of things we do is we're of course a nonprofit organization. So what we try to do is we don't make a whole lot of, like this year in baseball and soccer and things like that. We had our prices at $85 per kid. So what we done as a programs committee, we sit down and we was like, what's it going to cost us to have field maintenance, employees, and compared to our sponsors and the entry fees. So we was able to come to a generalization that we could lower our prices for these kids because we was up to $85. I was taking a lot of calls that I can't afford to play, and that's the last thing we want to do as a Parks and Rec is have kids that can't play. Since then, we've actually lowered our price to $55 per kid, and that was on the formula of what it was going to cost to run it with our sponsors, and what we could lower our price to get kids to play. So basically, when we take in additional revenue, we try to keep it to a minimal just so we can keep the cost down for, say, a single mother of 4 that's got 4 kids playing. Up until this year, I believe it was $5 discount for siblings, and now we've lowered it to 15 per. Say, first kid's 55, second one's 40, and third one's 25. And we try to offset that with sponsors. We've been really lucky in the last 6 months of our donations coming in, and that's because we're kind of reaching out to the community businesses. Our local businesses have been just phenomenal on helping us with Christmas at the park, and then we got scholarships for kids that just don't have even the $55. So they can contact us, we go through the school resource centers and try to get every kid involved that we can. So generally we don't try to make profit, we just try to make it where our kids are involved in sports and programs, and not only that, our senior citizens, we just done a Valentine's thing for our senior citizens. We did Thanksgiving dinner for our seniors, and so we basically just try to make enough to support what we got in place.
But
So
we don't know what the total revenue was for last year.
If you come to the Parks and Recs, we can give you our budget.
Okay.
We don't mind at all. We usually keep it printed out.
Let's see if we can make a phone call out there and get that question answered before we leave, if you don't mind. So just to recap, very good question. I'm glad you asked that. So through revenue that would be for programs, so a parent coming in to pay so their kid can play. Which one of our goals with raising this tax, ultimately in Parks and Recreation, is that we can lower the cost as low as possible for kids. Ultimately, we'd love them to play for free. I would love to be the county in Kentucky where no kid has to ever pay.
Okay.
But so those fees, rental of facilities, they can make some money off that. They make some money off of the concessions. When they have tournaments, they can rent out a field. So it would basically be through usage fees or participation fees. You go to the pool, you pay a little bit to use the pool that day. So those are the percentage, we're gonna get you a number.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
But that percentage is very small compared to the overall number that is collected for the restaurant tax.
What's the admission to attend like a baseball game for just a visitor to come in and watch a game?
Are you talking about our local games? Like
Yes.
it's
a
free.
seasonal. How much?
It's free. You come in and watch the kids play.
Like baseball, pool would have a rental.
Yeah,
Or a pool would have.
What
a-
about tournaments?
The tournaments, we rent out to a tournament director, and they set the gate fees.
Okay, then who, if there's a profit on that particular tournament, where does that money go to?
The people hosting the tournament.
Okay.
So great questions, thank you, because it helps with the discussion when we get good questions. So someone will pay, is it $2,500 there? What was the regular?
It's per field, I think it's some,
Based on the number of fields they're renting, so
so
they have a
usually
weekend
per
tournament.
days. Well, some tournaments are Saturday only, some days are Saturday and Sunday, and we rent it per day, per field.
So they would pay, someone comes in and says, we like your park, you got a more awesome park than we do in our county, right? I wanna host the tournament. So they're gonna pay Parks and Rec some money to rent those fields. And then, of course, they've gotta pay out of their pocket the trophies, the umpires, whatever. And then ultimately they're trying to, and then they pay for parking if you're coming for that event, if you're a visitor bringing a team in, I think they pay for parking. So ultimately they're trying to make a little money too. So it's a win-win for both sides. And all those people that are coming in are part of those large numbers of visitors who are spending money when they come in. Putting gas in their car, going to Walmart because they forgot a chair, stopping by a roof hunt to get some candy, eating at a restaurant, and coming back out to the park, whatever that is. If we're lucky to come and stay at our hotels if they're far enough away, and we can make a little money off that too.
And I will tell you, in addition to that, before I become a board member, I've been involved in Parks and Rec. Well, I was raised in Parks and Rec. My dad was a program director for many years, so I remember when it was Cribble and Carter, and the maintenance crew was me and my brother working on it. So I've been around Parks and Rec all my life, and before I became a board member, my question was, why wasn't Parks and Rec hosting these tournaments and making all the profit? But what I've learned since I've been on board, and also as a travel parent, is there's certain tournament directors that these teams will play for, that they've been playing for year after year after year. They've built their relationships with these teams, so they're going to go play where, say, Dalton, Melbourne, or Cheney, wherever they're playing, wherever fields they're going to. That's where our teams are going to. You know, I've got 2 kids that are playing travel ball, and we look to see where these certain tournament hosts, because we feel like they're the fairest, they have the best umpires, and that's where we go play. So I've learned a lot in the 2 years less than 2 years I've been on the board, is why we're not hosting tournaments. We get the rental fees, we get the concession fees, but if we decide to host these tournaments and no teams show up, or half the teams show up, then we're cutting into the tourism for the people coming in and spending money in the hotels, the restaurants, and our concessions.
So, and thank you, great question to just lead to some discussion. And I'll lastly say, this is becoming a competitive endeavor for cities and counties across the state. They are investing heavily in their parks because they know people will come use those parks, especially on these tournaments, and they can generate great revenue for their community, so that money is just cycling through. And then so that does lead to a discussion about the future and goals that Parks and Rec has, and ultimately, wouldn't we love an indoor facility in the community, especially the last couple of weeks where nobody had a place to go when the schools are closed, you can't go use them. But it would be nice if we had an indoor facility for our citizens to be able to go use, but then also to have tournaments and bring people in to kind of generate some revenue there. So investments in your Parks and Rec are awesome. Ultimately, they're for your citizens. But also, if others see the benefit of your parks, then they're going to help bring people with them to help bring more revenue into your community. So it's all part of just kind of a magical puzzle that everything fits together nicely and everybody's mutually supporting everyone. Yes. Well.
Hi, Robin. I'm sure Greg has a lot of points, but I have a few points.
Mm-hmm.
One is we're not getting any information of how that 5.2 million is being used. Now, you're saying possibly, and I think I've seen it in the paper, a new facility. However, I think we need to work on the facilities that we already have in the town. Now, when I go walk the park at Easy Walk around the trails are busted, and I have to make sure I use the bathroom before I even go, because the bathrooms are locked. And I don't want it to become the Dollar General of our town, where new Dollar Generals are being built, but what about the old ones that are sitting around getting ruined? People are selling drugs in their parking lot, nobody's taking care of all these old Dollar Generals, but new Dollar Generals are popping up. Why would we even talk about a new facility when we have to take care of the facilities we currently have?
I
And
agree.
you can't even, God forbid, I need to take a child to the bathroom and have to dangle them over a porta potty because I can't even use the bathroom because they're locked and the facilities are falling apart.
And I'm
Why
gonna-
would we even talk about a new facility?
And the question I
I'd
was
like,
gonna have,
wait, hold on, I'd like to know how that 5.2 million is being earmarked.
Yeah, great question. So this is what has been presented to the city and county governments. I'm glad you kind of mentioned some of those things, Robin. New asphalt on Easy Walker Park and Botts Park for walking trails, estimated cost $550,000. Renovating tennis courts, $450,000. Dog park replacement, the fences are falling down, $20,000 to make the improvements there. New restrooms at Easy Walker Park for better access to tennis courts, softball, playground, estimated cost $225,000. One restroom facility, inclusive playground at Easy Walker Park, $100,000. Add one restroom facility to the mound, estimated cost $100,000. All-inclusive playground installed at the mound, estimated cost $200,000. You gotta clean out the pond, dredge the pond at Easy Walker Park, that's $40,000. New benches, picnic tables, grills, trash cans, in all the parks, estimated cost $50,000. Update baseball and soccer concessions, estimated cost $100,000. Parking lot reconstruction, you all know the parking lots out there. There's some drainage issues, the rocks kind of get all over the place. They need some repaving, some curving, estimated cost $450,000. Resurfacing basketball, pickleball courts at the mound, $50,000. Air conditioning units at the Aquatic Center concession stand replaced, $18,000. Paint and fix drywall and pull concessions due to air conditioning leaking, $3,500. Splash pad for Botts Park, that's a want, not a need, but estimated cost $325,000. Two scoreboards at Easy Walker Park that need to be replaced, $25,000. That's about half of it. The other half would be if we were going to upgrade our 5 baseball fields to look at putting in new drainage, fencing, and turf in some areas. That would be a $2.5 million.
Well, I would say, as a citizen, we shouldn't even be talking about a new facility. And you're also not accounting for the fact that restaurants sponsor these fields and send in a check. And like he said, you're not talking about all the revenue you're already receiving or grants that are missed or not gotten because somebody didn't do their due diligence. That there's a lot of revenue streams besides taxing our citizens that you can be gathering, getting, or, who's auditing, who's making sure the restaurants in town. I mean, don't get me started on the zoning, because Dairy Queen's zoned in, Irish Hills is zoned in, but the bowling alley's not zoned in. Don't get started on the zoning, but who's auditing to make sure that coffee house, or we shouldn't say it's a restaurant tax, it's a prepared food tax. You go into Walmart and you get your child popcorn chicken, you're paying that tax. All the vendors at court days should be sending in thousands of dollars of tax that they're generating. Who's auditing and making sure, especially in cash businesses? You go to a gas station, you get a hot dog, you're paying that tax. You're not understanding. And I know I'm not collecting this money, I'm collecting it for you. But you don't see the customers every day who complain about, all they see is raised prices. That is all my customers
Completely
see.
understand, yes.
They,
Get
we
your
get
point of
the
view as a restaurant
complaints,
owner.
we
Yeah.
get the complaints, you do not.
Yeah.
So, I think telling our customers, hey, the parks wants $5.2 million, well, what's that for? Most of this tax, my understanding, should be going to tourism, not, I understand parks is an overview, but is somebody from the restaurant business on the Parks and Rec board to see where that money is being utilized?
The restaurant appointee is to tourism.
But 94% of the money goes to Parks and
It
Rec.
does, yes,
And they're
because
the
we have a
ones
lot of
who,
parks that we need to maintain,
Right.
so. And so you mentioned several different things there, Robin, I'm probably gonna miss something, but
I have a lot of points, I have a lot of
I can't
points.
remember-
Obviously, I'm opposed.
that's fine, and that's fine. I respect where you're coming from as restaurant owners. That's
Yeah.
perfectly fine, and we want to hear your feedback. And I get that the consumer takes it out on you. We've had those discussions as a council. You're the one that has to hear the feedback. And
Yes.
I would want you to say, go down there and talk to that mayor, or talk to the city council, and let us help. We have not educated the public well on this. So, Jeanette, how many people are paying the restaurant tax? Just off the top of your head, 50?
53, 55.
53, so there are a lot. I know you have concerns that not everybody's paying. Believe me, she's a bulldog. If she senses somebody is not paying, she's out paying them a visit. And if need be, taking a police officer with her to say, you have to pay the restaurant tax per this.
Are you auditing?
So,
Yes, I am.
Okay,
yeah,
Because I think I.
she's on top.
so that answers your question, they're
Yeah.
doing an audit.
They're paying, they're doing an audit, absolutely.
My
And-
question
and
is-
Robin, I'm sorry, and Greg, I want to get to your point. I
Okay.
just want to make sure I can try to answer Robin's points the best I can. And I can't remember when you walked in, but that bowling alley's outside the city limits, and we just can't do anything. And I wish the county could institute a tax on them, but they.
No, I'm
they
not
just
saying,
can't.
honestly,
So-
what I'm saying is the zoning, they created zoning for their own interests to get alcohol sales at Irish Hills, and they skipped over everybody and hit Dairy Queen, hit Irish Hills. But the community center, or the bowling alley, or whoever, it's just,
They didn't
it
request to come in the
boggles
city,
my mind.
right?
What?
That's their decision. They did not request to come in the city. It's not the city's decision. We can certainly go try to
I'm
force
just
someone
saying-
to come in the city, but we're not going to. They did not request to come in the city, therefore they can't sell alcohol there. They made their choice, and that's fine. They don't
No,
want to be in the city.
I guess my point is, as a citizen, it's mind-boggling to me, the zoning is strange.
Can I make a comment real quick? Years and years ago, when that happened, the city was allowed to spot annex, and now you're not allowed to spot annex, it has to be contiguous. So that was years and years ago.
They never requested to come into the
So,
city.
if we
They
retro that,
just
so
requested to come.
This has new law, can we retro that and get my restaurant out of
Yeah.
I'm being serious,
Yeah.
because here's the deal.
They're
They're selling, you know, and I talk to a lot of people, and what I'm told, and I don't like to find anything in writing, but, you know, it was zoned, and even Brad Toy would say, actually, my driveway to my business at the golf courses, that's the zone right there. It doesn't make sense. And so, if there's a new law that's going for that, and keeping it continual, maybe we can fix that, or at least go back and redo and rezone appropriately according to the news. Is that a statute? Or law?
Well, we don't certainly
Yeah.
get off track, and I'm
Yeah,
happy to
yeah.
sit down with you after and talk about how annexation works now versus how it used to work.
But it has changed.
But
You
generally,
know
the
that. That's good
the
enough.
city has only annexed in new developments because those new developments are asking for our water. So that's generally why decisions have been made to bring people into the city. Or they want to be in the city because they want to sell alcohol. So that's kind of why people choose to come into the city. So your whole block out there was a brand new development, and all of it came in at once because it was a new development. And I wasn't mayor then, I don't think Roger Barnes may have
Well,
been
actually,
around
that's
when
not
that
true
happened.
there.
Yeah, there's
That's not
Yeah.
true. It was annexed, we were annexed way after it was brought in.
Right.
After my building was established in there for several years,
Yeah.
and I can't give you the amount, maybe 5 would be my guess. Because when I moved to this community, I remember, you know, the zoning, and it didn't make sense to me, and I opposed it.
And so that's been there a while, so that's not an accurate statement.
Okay,
What's not an accurate statement?
As far as it was zoned
When it was
originally,
built.
when it was.
That
built.
entire subdivision was zoned after the fact. They did it so they could sell alcohol at that gas station there, and they forcefully annexed all of us into the
Yes.
city. I own a lot of property there, you know.
And that was
And it-
before your time.
It was against our will. We did not want it.
yes.
Well,
That's why I'd
I'll
like
just
to
say
request
this.
that we go back and rezone my area.
you can make your arguments of whether you like being in the city or not, but I will just say this. The benefits you get from your city services are quite amazing. The city is paying everybody's fire tax. That's about 65% of what we collect in property taxes pays your fire bill. So we really, when you remove that, we don't really have that much, but you're still getting police services, you're still getting public works, you're still getting all those other niceties that
You know,
come with
you're
it.
actually getting a lot with 2%. See, for example, in
So 2% is just restaurant.
Okay, just
So,
restaurant.
yeah.
So let me say this. In 5 years ago, my check average, and I can only reference Dairy Queen, sorry, that's because that's all I know, but I can give you facts. My check average was $10.04 about 5 years ago, 4 to 5, I don't remember. Now it's pushing $12.79. That's $2-3 more per transaction that the city is getting that 2% of, and that increase is just a lot of money just in the last 4 years. So, and that's no money going to the restaurants on the bottom line. That's all increase, just like the franchisee, you know, my franchisor is making a killing because I pay higher wages and I pay higher food costs. Restaurants cannot, so as a restaurant owner, you can't raise prices too much, because when you raise prices, your transactions come down. So my first point is Park and Rec has been getting a lot more money since COVID because of the increases. My other point is the restaurants are making less money because for the transactions that I have, the more I raise prices, the less I have. Dairy Queen, I attended a convention last month, and for the last 7 years, the transactions have gone like this. Nationally, for every restaurant chain, that's just big restaurant chain information that I have. And the profits in each restaurant, like for example for mine, because of the cost of food going up every year and not coming down, I'm taking a 2% loss in my out of my pocket. I have 2 shareholders that are not happy about it, but I have to make that decision that I can't raise prices to match my increases. And I'm blessed because we have a great location, we have a great community, we have a great following, but that's impactful, and that's just something.
I'd love to share the numbers of your restaurant. You ever want to sit down privately and show you the benefit that you get from out-of-town visitors to your
Oh,
restaurant?
trust me, I've
Let me-
already had you and 4 board members, well, we've had a nice conversation, but I've had 4 board members tell me how much I benefit from, the Park and Rec. And me as a business owner, I know that. And they told me, Greg, because I was on the board, as you know, I got pushed out, in my opinion. But I walked away. And Eric, you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Forced out, and I understand your frustration.
You don't think I was forced out?
The board bullied Greg off the board.
I was
at the meeting.
bullied.
He
big
was
time,
bullied off.
Eric, and you know that.
Everybody
If you just sit here and laugh about it, let's pick on the board. The
Yeah,
point
let's
is,
stick
that's
to that.
another thing. It's really been impactful for the restaurants, and my point is that there's a really big loss
Yeah.
going on for
And
everybody.
that's a very good
And
point.
it's more hurtful for the smaller mom and pops.
Yeah, absolutely. I get where you come from, Greg, and I've told you I respect you, and you can be against this all you want, because I understand you're a restaurant owner, and I understand that you have
And
different
when they tell me
challenges
that I've benefited, I've given, I just looked last year, I told you yesterday, I've given $30,000 last year alone back to my community.
Yeah,
Part of that is
that's
because
we
I feel like
applaud
it's
you
a
for that.
response. I don't want credit for that.
We wish we had more like you, Greg.
But that is something that everybody in our town does in the restaurant industry. We are hit up so much by the nonprofits, by the sports teams, from the schools. We are taking a beating, and it breaks my heart having to say no. I used to not have to say no, But man, I have to say no. And so there's a lot that needs to be discussed, you know, about the restaurants, especially Robin's point is I would like to see how much money Park and Rec is generating from Kroger and from these other sales of the food.
Well-
because it's not a restaurant tax, Al, it's a food tax.
I get that, but you understand why I can't give your data to the Arnolds over here. That would be, if you
All
want to
that's
give it to
public.
them, you can, but I
All
can't
that's
share
public.
corporate data, Greg. I can't tell you what.
Can you give a
the
percent
restaurants-
of how much, a percentage of how much is going through?
There's smart people in this room that could take that percentage and figure it out.
But
I
there's smart
can't,
people
I
in
would
this
not
room that
give
can
your
take
data
my
out,
income.
Greg.
How much, there's smart people, because it's public, that takes my income and can calculate how much money that I brought
They
in.
can, but I'm not giving it to them.
Well, they can do it.
Well, okay, but my point is, I can't give
Give us
you
a percent.
Kroger's info because I can't release anybody's private info. I wouldn't release yours, Greg.
What I think
Now-
the point we're trying to make is it's not a restaurant tax, it's a prepared food tax. So,
We covered all that
Yeah,
at the beginning,
and
yes.
I think, keep saying the word restaurant tax is.
Because restaurant's just a slang term, Robin. It's just because that's what
But
everybody
the
understands.
communities might not be realizing that when they go and get a steak at Court Days, and they're just paying $10, that 8% of that should be going to the state of Kentucky, or the city, or whatever, 2% goes. You know, the community, we're speaking on behalf of the community, and they might not be realizing that young families who are buying their child popcorn chicken at Walmart is paying this.
Yeah.
That you're paying it more than just not eating out. Like, I choose to eat out and I don't choose to eat out. Your child is, oh, can I get some chicken, or can I go here and go, the parks, can I go get a sandwich at the parks or whatever? You're paying that. You just might not realize it, that you are paying that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
That's
hitting-
what,
It's hitting the vulnerable, with disability, people on fixed incomes, veterans, families. Parents already have to have 2-income households. And we just wanna raise more taxes on our community?
I can tell you first knowledge that, you know, people, when I raise prices 10 cents, I have senior citizens noticing it. I have the kids noticing it from high school, saying, and we're just talking 10 cents, that's hitting them. And all of this adds up over time. We have, like yourself, the veterans that are on fixed income, and they're really pressured for the monies. And so our compassion lies in, we have an advantage of, I guess, knowing how taxes and the price of food impacts our community in a very, very negative way. And I feel like, just like I do, I try to help out the community, I feel like I'm supposed to say something on behalf of my community. I don't really care about my profits in my store and how things are and how it impacts me. I'm blessed beyond anything I've ever dreamed, and you all know that. I feel like, just like when I help out other nonprofits in the community, that I really need to speak up. And I don't know if our government realizes how hard things are for people nowadays. I have kids living and sharing rooms and living in cars constantly, especially these last 3-4 years that I've ever seen. So we're only talking pennies and cents, and I get it. And I know it'd be nice to have an indoor theater, or indoor facility. I want it just as much as you do. I want it just as much as Eric does. But I was on the Park and Rec Board, and I had to talk as a citizen, and I gotta say that it wasn't being ran well, it wasn't being run properly, and I was so outspoken over the years because I was so frustrated because everything I've tried to do and change, because I'm a businessman, and I tell you, I don't have a business degree, but I can go run any business, and Eric was shaking his head, thank you, that it wasn't being ran well. Now we have a new director in there, things have changed, it's totally flipped my thought process and where I'm gonna go in the future with this. But we're not there yet. We have $2 million, Al, in things that we need to fix and repair before we go out and say, let's build another, an indoor stadium. And that's the point I think I'm trying to say, not so well, from the community is, why now? Is it because we've done such a bad job as directors and commissioners in the past that we have to now, make it happen now? Can't we wait? Can't we just get things right? Hasn't our new director hasn't been in position long enough to really take the bull by the horns. I just think the timing overall is just really, really bad for our people.
Okay. Well, thank you for your feedback there, and I would like to just say a couple things. I understand your costs have gone up. And one of our challenges is making the public understand cost has gone up for local government too. Our company,
I agree.
what I used to be able to hire I can't hire somebody for what I was hiring them for 5 years ago, just like you know that.
Yeah.
Police officers are expensive. Every community is fighting for police officers because of the changing culture that no one's wanting to go into it. You gotta pay these guys. If we want safe communities, we have to make those investments. Running a pool's expensive. We've got that pool, the parts for it, the chemicals, we pay lifeguards to run work there. Kids are working out there at our parks. So the cost for local government has went up too. I totally respect where you're coming from as a business owner, but it's not like we can't keep up, like you said, Bobbin, we can't keep up with our maintenance needs. So, I mentioned a new facility, but the immediate needs are that big list that I was just reading out of, $400,000 plus just to fix
that
the
goes
trails.
that goes back to old decisions that were made by our leaders and our board members, is that we decided we're gonna take Botts Park and manage it. And there wasn't enough foresight into how much it's gonna cost us to maintain it. And then now that's just added a big burden, and that's part of the reason why we're here.
Yeah,
Part of the reason why we're here is we have a pool that was built, and the old pool needed to get built. I wasn't really against the pool, but there wasn't enough foresight in there to say, oh my gosh, we're losing so much money to maintain the pool, we're not bringing in the income, it's a heavy burden. So a lot of this wasn't proper planning previously, and I get it. But I say let's clean our house first before we go out and ask our community to fork up more money. And maybe there's ways that you can find how to pay for that in different ways. I have some things that I'd like to discuss with you, and Shannon hopefully is going to speak out and talk about that, because there's a lot of different ways we can raise revenue to get our facilities fixed without having to raise the taxes. And the last point I think I want to make off the top of my head is that David Hale last year allocated Winchester several $100,000 for their park and
It's
rec.
Bath County benefit.
Bath County benefit,
Yeah,
thank you.
we didn't get any of that.
And the year before. So that's 2 years in a row that I'd like to understand from Mr. Hale. Why is it that we didn't get any money? If we had any money, I don't know if we'd really be in here. I mean, I think it would maybe be later, but right now. So why is it that we were overlooked? And I think that needs to be discussed.
You need to direct those questions toward your elected representation in
And I had
Frankfurt.
that conversation with
I
you.
can't explain why we're left out.
Well, I can tell you. Your answer to me, sir, was he knows what our meetings are. His answer is, I wasn't invited to any meetings. I don't know what's going on with Park and Rec. There's communication there that needs to happen. And that's what our paid officials are being paid for. Get out of the politics of it, have these meaningful conversations, and quit ignoring each other in some situations. Because there was opportunity there that I think if we had that relationship, that we could maybe have had some money. And that's my conversation with him before he leaves office. And I don't know I don't want to blame anybody for that, but I do think that's another way that just working with other people and other leaders and other government officials that we might not agree with specifically face to face, that there could be some meaningful conversations there.
Okay. I'll just wrap up with, we submit our list of wants and needs to our elected officials in Frankfurt, and we ask that then they go to bat for us. I can't explain why we do get or don't get whatever we ask for.
Okay.
That's a question you need to ask them.
Okay,
If other communities are receiving money and we're not,
right,
why that is.
okay.
So,
Yeah, but you mentioned invitations. How does that relate to his response?
Well,
invitations, we have public meetings every month, and if an elected official doesn't show up at our meetings, I can't explain why they would not
No.
choose to join us.
He mentioned that that official said he was never invited, and the question is
The
why
public's
not?
always invited, elected officials are always invited, our meetings are open
Well,
to
it
the
doesn't
public.
sound like that, though apparently the other person is not responding back.
Okay.
They're
If
not
that's your
doing that,
perception,
they're not
that our
doing
public meetings aren't open to elected officials, then obviously I have not done a good job of letting the public and elected officials know that these are open meetings that anyone can attend.
That is apparently what they're saying.
Evidently,
They're saying
I'm
that too.
the fault is what,
Yeah,
It's
but
being said,
you're
it's my
both
fault.
saying that,
Okay.
so what happens
as long as
is,
we're clear, it's my
I'm not
fault
saying it's
that
your fault.
Frankfurt,
I'm saying there's
left us
conversations
out.
that need to
Okay.
go, both ways.
Thank you.
Mike.
So we've got that down. It's my fault that we didn't get money last year. The last thing, Greg, why discussions are happening now? Because, as I mentioned, and you came in a little later, so I'm not gonna go over all that. The city and county governments are being asked to fund more and more out of our general fund, and we don't have it. I don't have $5 million that the city can turn over to help upgrade the parks. Look, the fences were $20,000. I would struggle to find $20,000, Greg.
Is that
So finding,
because I thought we were.
that's the
closing
dog.
Weren't we closing that last meeting I attended, that was going away?
Eventually, it's going to.
Eventually,
So,
yeah.
so we don't.
But my point is, here's a list of wants and needs. When these are presented to us as a local government, we have a requirement to try to figure out how to get you the revenue.
I agree. I'm
So
with you.
property taxes may be a better avenue. Maybe it's occupational taxes. Maybe it's we say we don't want to fund parks in this community. I don't know what the answer is. We're just trying to have the discussions to figure it out.
Yeah, the restaurants are saying, we're paying our fair dues, because it's basically coming off the prices, people don't realize that. And maybe we as a government or, community can look at other ways to generate that income outside of hitting the restaurants.
Okay. We can look at other avenues. We certainly have
That's my
property
biggest-
taxes, occupational taxes. We can have those discussions. How to find the money to help fund these entities which have maintenance needs.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, we had another question. Sabrina?
I have a couple. You're saying that you're getting 2% right now for the tourism and rec board and all
Yes.
that. So it comes from prepared food, you're saying. So if I go out to Romero's and I have a dinner and I have a glass of wine with my dinner, am I paying 2% also on my glass of wine?
According to how they bring that up, if it's part of a meal deal, I don't know, it should be on the prepared foods. That's something you need to
So-
look at on your receipt to see
Right,
how
so
that comes
what
out.
I'm saying is, so this is on food and alcohol, not just prepared food, correct?
We don't have an alcohol tax.
Okay, so,
Some communities have an alcohol tax, we
so the
don't.
restaurant can charge you up on that, that is what I'm saying. They charge
You should look at your receipts to
So
make
would
sure
that
you're
go
paying.
to, would that go to our city? If my bill says, okay,
Whatever.
it's $10 for the pasta and the glass of wine, then I get charged 2%, so there's, 20 cents on my bill.
That should be on the food.
So that should go to just the food.
Yes, that goes to the city.
So if they charge it wrongly, who's watching that? Nobody?
The consumer
Okay.
telling the restaurant, I think you didn't ring me up correctly.
Gotcha, okay,
Yeah.
so with that being said, we have young kids, women, ladies with children that are serving us, and so you look at your bill and you're like, well, it's more now, so am I gonna tip on that full bill higher now for them? Or is the I'm not saying us, because we tip very well, I'm not saying it at all, but would a consumer tip less now because of this increase? You see what I'm saying?
That's a great question.
So-
Will
so-
it change tipping? Yes.
So will it change tipping?
It could, yeah.
And then I have one other thing about this, where we're eating, the Pacer AI. I have a friend that, moved here from Virginia, let's say, and she still has her Virginia phone. It's gonna show that she's not from here, correct?
That's correct.
So if my phone's still from California, it's gonna show here that I'm still from California.
That may be why at court day, we had like 100 people from Las Vegas and we couldn't figure it out. But people move.
Right, and they
If you
don't.
served in the military, in the Air Force, and you served in Vegas, and you come back here and you don't change your phone,
Right,
then it's registering that
Wherever
someone from
you-
Las Vegas is
right.
eating at that
so this
restaurant. Yes.
isn't 100% correct.
No, it's not.
So-
Well, like we said, kids aren't.
Right,
Kids
it's
aren't
already
carrying
on there.
phones either.
Right.
So no data is 100% correct, but this gives us a good conversation.
A line to
Yeah,
follow.
to
I
start.
understand that.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess, what was my other question? I have another one in here. I'm sorry. So, if you did like a 2.5 now, or do you have to go straight to 3?
No, good question. Council could take no action, council could go in increments. It's just
Okay.
increments.
So there's no like set time for that increase
No.
every year? And will this, you're capped at 3%, correct?
Correct.
So, okay. And as far as I know, I have a granddaughter that plays soccer, and so I know that, we pay for that, and it goes to the city and da-da-da-da-da. But, for Parks and Rec. Now, I feel for you, Tracy, because I know you work on a limited budget. How is that fair for her, for our tourism? Where one's getting 30,000, I believe it was.
Yes.
The airport's getting 15.
Mhm.
Historical, I know they have to
10.
turn their lights on and all that and everything. But, Gateway Regional Arts Center, how can we make this a little more fair for our tourism director? Because she does a lot for
Right.
our city.
Right.
A
Great.
lot. And county.
Great question. So if we were to raise this, obviously every entity wants to receive a little bit of that also.
But
So
why
to be
would-
fair, we're gonna have to get around the table and they're gonna have to figure it out how they want to better allocate what that additional revenue is. 'Cause so all of it, I mentioned earlier $575,000 projected, but all of that wouldn't go to Parks and Rec. That's gonna
Okay.
have to be allocated out. And I'd said we're gonna have some tough conversations around the table with all those entities about what they feel is their fair share.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I felt that it was like a little bit way apart, and I know that it costs a lot to mow yards and take care of everything, but I mean, what she does brings those people into our
Mhm.
community.
She's got a very valid request for additional revenue. She does receive all of the hotel motel tax, I mentioned that earlier. So this on top is kind of helping provide her with more so that she can do the great job that she does. So.
Because guess what, advertising costs more too.
Yes, it does. I mean,
Yeah, everything's going up. Hey,
It's like everybody
Tracy.
talking about this is
Yeah,
more,
like-
this is more, costs more to advertise on this.
Here's my concern, and I'm a big supporter of recs and park and have kids and grandkids play at those, but if you go out to eat, you start off with paying right now a 6% sales tax in Kentucky.
Right.
If this restaurant tax or prepared food tax goes to 3%, well now that boosts it up to 9%
Right.
total.
Instead of
But if
eight,
you use
it's
a
nine.
credit card, that's another 3% now they're tagging on. So you're up to what, 12, then if you tip, 15, 20, 25%, you're up to about a third of the cost of your meal. For some families, I think that's an extreme hardship to be able to eat out. And I think you'll have less people eating out when you get, the line has to be drawn, I think at some point, It can't just keep easing up and up and up. Now, where the sacrifices are made, I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, we're having a discussion that we feel this is the best approach, but maybe it's through a different revenue stream. Maybe that's a better approach. Yeah, thank you. Shannon?
Is there any way, I know that other places, I don't know if it's city, county, fed, state, whatever, but is there an avenue where you can ask for a bond and a limit on its term?
Could we? Absolutely. For capital projects, we may look at bonding. We prefer not to borrow money if we don't have to. City of Mount Sterling carries no debt other than the pool. So, and that's being paid out of the restaurant tax funds. It's not coming out of our funds. But as a local government, we would prefer not to overextend ourselves and have to take out loans or bonds. Yes.
I forgot one question.
Did I answer? That's one part. Did you ask two questions? I'm sorry. Okay.
How would we pay the $5 million though without a loan?
Well, the $5 million, the question, in case you didn't hear it, was how do we pay the $5 million? The $5 million is a bunch of different projects, right? So I just used the $5 million to say this is what is in front of the city and the county, and we don't know how we can come up with $5 million. So could we figure out how to resurface the basketball and pickleball courts at $50,000? Yeah, we could probably figure out over the course of 2 or 3 years, the city and the county giving extra money to fix that.
But they have over $1 million.
The bigger projects would require some sort of bond.
But they're already taking in over $1 million a year. I mean, where's all this money going? Where's all these fees coming in? The concession stands upside down, or it was at last meeting. You know, so I mean, we're bleeding all this money. I mean, the parks are going to have to either charge admission, or we're going to have to get rid of some of these parks. We have way too many parks. I know a lot of people, there were meetings about the Bots Park. We didn't need it. And then we were promised that it wouldn't be improved. Now it's improved, and we've spent all this money out there. I mean, it's just, where do we draw the line? I mean, we can't allow our government at any level to grow faster than the people it serves. And that's what's going on here. It's a spending problem. This government's never seen a dollar it didn't want to tax and spend.
Well,
we don't need this. We don't need it. We
get-
might want it, but we don't need it. We're not there
I
yet.
get where you're coming from as a citizen in this community. But I would say, what type of community have we come where the option is let's close our parks, let's get rid of nice things, let's get rid of programs for our kids? I don't think that is the right way forward. For some folks, it may be, and I respect where you're coming from. I respect where everybody's coming from. But we're a damn good community here. We've got great people. We can figure this out without closing things. I just don't think closing things is what we need to do. Getting rid of a park.
We don't have to get rid of it. We're going to lock the gates for a few years till we get ahead of this.
Parks.
I mean, we have too many parks. I'll just say,
Yeah.
we have too many parks. We have too many parks. I don't know how many times I have to say it.
Well,
We can't
you
afford
know,
the parks.
Too many parks, man. To the
Yeah, that's true.
Bonds Park, 72. The other communities around us love Bonds Park.
Let's charge
7,200
admission. Let's put an
people
admission
stay
box
to
out
visit.
there then. I mean, if
But
it's
I'm
that
saying,
popular.
Other communities look at us and say, man, look at that community. They got it going on over there. They're providing nice things. Other communities recognize our excellence, and sometimes we miss it, and it's right under our nose.
But then that creates pressure in those communities for them to have to fight the same battle.
Well, that's
It's
why we
just-
thought a restaurant tax is a little more fair, because they're helping pay the bills.
I don't think he said that he wants to close parks like you quoted. He said we may have outgrown the need for as many parks, and I can say from an out-of-state resident from 5 years ago, that when I was doing my geographic assessment of where I was gonna live and what's going on and all the rest of it, I lost track of which park was what. I was an easy walker and there's a Boston, and every time I turned around there was a park there. I was really surprised by that, because I should be able to pick where I'm gonna live based on things other than parks. So I agree, there are too many parks.
I'm proud that we have the 4 parks that we
I'm
have.
sure you're proud.
29,500 people, 4 different options.
It's not that. It's the arguments we can't afford.
And I'm sorry, Shannon, did I misquote you? You said you're not against closing parks. That's.
Lock
she
the,
said
lock
we're
the
not
gate, we
against
can't
closing
afford to
lots.
operate we can't afford to operate the parks. I'm not saying that we sell the properties, we get rid of them. I'm saying lock the gates till we can get ahead of this. You know, if we can't make money selling concessions, then we need to exit the concession business. And I think Eric is implementing a digital cash system, was at one of the meetings we were talking about, going away from cash.
POS system in.
And that should fix it, you know, on there. It was probably people just taking big bills, putting it in one pocket, making change out of the kitty. You know, it was probably something like that, right? I mean, the money, but there was more money being spent on concessions than we were taking in on concessions. And then, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've got a lot of stuff to unpack here. So last year, you know, there was several of us. The parks had record attendance at their meetings over this very issue. The public came out in force and strongly said we don't want it. Multiple restaurant owners were there. I mean, other people. I don't own a restaurant. I'm 46 years old. I've lived here 46 years. I love Mount Sterling. Plan to, you know, live here the rest of my life. It's just, I want to see good things too. But also, I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like in my personal home that, you know, you just have to work towards. You can't just go out and take. You have to earn it. You have to earn it organically. We have restaurants that are wanting to come here, but they don't want to come here for a couple of reasons. One, our other exit is dry, and that shouldn't be. I mean, you know, but then the other thing is taxes. I mean, this is an issue. I'm a real estate broker, and I talk to a lot of these big companies, and taxes are an issue. It is part of the discussion. Now, is that going to deter them from setting their building on our exit or another town's exit? No, probably not. You're right about that. But it is part of the discussion. It is part of what we pay. It does impact our businesses. It does put our city restaurants at a disadvantage to our county restaurants. There's just so many cons to it, so many negatives. I was just looking at the Mount Sterling Advocate. They're here today, and they have a poll running. There's 142 people, 82% that oppose this. 82% oppose it. You know, as far
Can you read that question, by the way? That question that they ask on the Advocate, I'm just curious of what that question
Sure.
says. I haven't read it, so.
It says, do you support a potential raise in the city restaurant tax from 2 to 3 cents? And said no. 82% of respondents, no, they do not. 14% do, and then 3% are unsure.
Okay. Thank you, Shane.
So that's
I'd
the
probably
current.
say no too if I just saw a poll that says, do you request, do you think we should raise the restaurant tax? Probably the better way to phrase that would be, do you support raising the restaurant tax to help pay for nice things in our community? Or an option, do you support raising property taxes to pay for nice things in our community? Or, no, I don't support raising any taxes to pay for nice things in our community. That may be a better way, in my opinion, to ask that question. But polls are polls, and, you know, maybe I can get the Advocate.
I think today you can ask about any question related to tax, and the answer is going to be no.
Correct.
I'm running a campaign, as you know, for state representative, and I have so much support. I've talked to thousands of people. They're fed up with taxes, and not just property taxes. They're fed up with every tax. I mean, we have tax on insurance. You know, here, and we're one of the highest in the state at 10%. You know, on title, even title insurance, when you buy a property and the lender makes you buy title insurance, and it's outrageous, and then you get smacked in the face with a 10% penalty from the city. If the property is located in the city, your health insurance, your life insurance, when you die, you're taxed. It says government just tax. Why don't we grow the base? Why don't we work together as a community, bring some more restaurants here that want to come here, that are trying to come here? Interest rates and other things are kind of put it on the back burner. I think once the interest rates come down and cost of materials and we get the property taxes done away with, that more businesses will come to Kentucky and Mount Sterling. There are a lot of them in line that want to come here. As far as raising money, the city's sitting on about 50 lots right now that the city is taking through foreclosure, 40 to 50
It's
lots.
not that many, no, about half of those we have.
About $1
No,
million
less.
worth of property.
Yeah.
About $1 million worth of
Oh,
property.
it's not that much.
It's about $1 million worth of property.
No, we'll get you Pam,
the-
we'll run those numbers real quick.
Well, I
He's
know.
saying $1 million worth of property. We don't own $1 million worth of lots in the city.
There's-
Please.
It's,
I want that fact checked.
I'd like to have a fact check too,
Yeah.
because I think it's higher than that. But I think there's about 40 to 50 lots, and I know that there's private citizens in town that are wanting to build affordable housing that you yourself have outbid them on these auctions, and they were wanting to come in and remove the dilapidated properties at their own expense to beautify our community using private funds, no taxpayer money, and then we have the city outbid them. Why would the city want to push these properties into foreclosure and then outbid private business or individuals in town that are wanting to build affordable housing, maybe handicap housing, Why would the city want to do that? Why would they want to outbid it? And then why, I mean, what's the game plan with those properties? I mean, I would like to think it's to put new houses on,
Well,
to create a tax
so
base.
as soon as we're finished, if we could stick to restaurant tax, I'd absolutely love to sit down and talk to you about why private property owners aren't going to address these blighted and abandoned properties and the city not have to be involved.
Well, they're trying to. I mean, they're trying to buy them at the auction, but the city is outbidding them using their own money.
The last master commissioner sale, nobody showed up to bid against us, so we got the lot.
Because they think that you're going to outbid them.
So,
You know, but
but
what
we
we don't
would
want.
welcome you, Shannon. I welcome you to go buy any of these blighted and abandoned properties. If you can take them, then I don't have to spend city money on them. Certainly.
It's all right. The reason I went into that was for the funding mechanism because we're saying we need funds. At the parks, it's they're bringing in like $1 million or something. Isn't it around $1 million, 900 to 1.1 million or something? I think it's the revenue stream right now, and it's a mess. I mean, when we went to those meetings, first, getting a copy of the budget was, it should be on the website. Eric shared a copy with me at the meeting, and thank you. And I started looking at it and just, jaw dropping. I mean, what we're spending on different things. But the budget, I mean, it's all a mess. Why would you allocate more funding to something that's a mess? Why don't we fix what we have first? If we have to lock some gates at some parks to get it under control, then so be it. We're just growing faster than the people we serve. The other thing is the poll on here. I mean, I think the question is fair. 2 cents to 3 cents. Maybe we do need to do another poll. I think that maybe we have some more meetings like this at town hall. Maybe at 2 or 3 more meetings where the public can come together, and then let's do a referendum. Let's have a public vote of the people that are interested. Let's vote this out. It takes the pressure off the city. It takes the pressure off us, and that way we can vote as a community and we can see how the vote's laid. Can we do that?
Well, Lexington instituted that type of tax for their parks and it passed, so certainly that is something that could be discussed.
And they voted on it via referendum?
It's my understanding they did, yes.
And they put it on a property tax.
I don't know how they did, I've just been told they did.
They added to a
I
property
really
tax.
looked into it, we
But the
different
properties,
governments operate in different ways. So
I
we're
just think
using the
we could-
revenue streams we have without trying to add another tax.
I'd like to see us, those properties, each have a $300,000 home or 200, whatever we deem affordable. I think they're calling it 250 as the average house now, 300. But, with a $300,000 house, 50 lots, that's $15 million. Some quick math, that's $175,000 a year or something in property tax. That's a whole nother revenue stream right there off those lots as quick as we can get those reset. What I don't want to see happen is taxpayer money be used for that whole process and then the city donate those lots to Frontier Housing or an organization like that is basically a business in the skies. I want to see those auctioned off to the top bidder so that our builders, our developers in town, and we're not interested. We have lots to sell if anybody wants to buy some, but I think that those should go out to private individuals to build housing, to build that base, so we have a tax base to bring in that revenue and maybe give some of it to the parks.
Shannon, can I ask you a question? So was your question to the mayor is, would he consider, or everybody consider doing a public vote
A
on
referendum.
increasing the restaurant tax?
One single ballot initiative, you're allowed to do it.
You would be willing to do, Mayor, or consider, or talk to the council, or whoever?
We could certainly bring that up. Everything's up for discussion at this point, so.
The only other thing I'd like to bring up,
And if the thought of this community is you'd rather have our citizens pay for everything instead of spread loaded over the citizens outside the community, then we can certainly have that discussion. We can pivot the discussion from a consumption-based type restaurant tax to property owners footing more of the bill.
we don't want it either way, is what
Certainly
we're saying, I
be
think.
happy.
We don't want it either way. The other thing I want to say in closing is the comments. Can the city and the parks please turn on the comments? There is legislation in process, you should know if you're not, that is going to make it a law that says you have to have comments on. I'd like to see us be ahead of that. I've requested this numerous times, not just here, but other places. It's very important that the city have dialogue. We have a seated council member. We have some other individuals in town that are coming to my page trying to engage in this conversation, when that conversation needs to be held in the proper venue, and that's on the city's social media pages. The purpose of social media is for interaction with the public. It's for conversation. It's today's town hall. That's where these conversations need to be held. is on the city's pages, on the Parks and Rec pages, not on private individuals' pages where city officials are imposing.
I would certainly say, Shannon, if the state passes that law, we'll certainly abide by any law Frankfurt passes. I would say that in government, when your pages are being used to have people advertise businesses, put malicious links into comments, slander other individuals, pass false information, those are reasons why local governments are not opening up those comments. And I would say social media is used to direct you to a website to obtain the information you need. And our website, I told you before, we received 7 emails. So people have submitted feedback. People had opened it up to call. I had 1 phone call.
I think if you had comments on, you probably had 700 comments on this issue.
Well,
It's very
I've
important.
seen the comments on social media, and a lot of those are false. And as a local government, when you're trying to provide information, and within the comments, there's false information being passed, that's hard to police. So we can continue this discussion. I appreciate where you're coming from, Shannon. And I would ask that you understand where local government kind of comes from when we're seeing comments turn nasty and negative toward your fellow citizens. And we do not need that in this community.
That's
we
all
do not need
protected speech stuff.
slander of your fellow citizens on government pages.
It's all protected speech. The other thing, if I can real quick, on the park tax, okay? And Eric, please go on the record today. I hope you'll say what you told me, was that your dad told you that this was supposed to come off after Easy Walker Park was paid off, after the loan. And I've been in 2 meetings over the past 20 plus years, right here in this very room, where that was discussed. The citizens were promised that as soon as we paid off Easy Walker, that the restaurant tax would be removed. Also, yesterday it was brought to my attention late last night that there's actually a recording of former Mayor Burt Mays talking about this very subject. And you can go on my page because all the full transcript and his words, his voice are all right there right now. So, Eric, please.
Yeah, but my understanding, again, I was, I believe, 14 or 15 when this happened. That was my understanding, but after talking to a couple of board members that was on the board with my father, it was a discussion. And that's as far as it went. And the reason that this elderly man told me that he believed it didn't go any further to put into I guess, rotation or into documentation was exactly what we're dealing with today. He told me that they talked about putting the
Sunset clause.
Sunset clause in, but then they worried about just what we're having today. Our parks, the infrastructure is struggling right now. And that what this gentleman told me, and I admit I was wrong. There was discussion, but it wasn't put in due to they was worried about 20 years, 30 years down the road, where we're at right now, that they wouldn't have the money to maintain the parks and facilities that they in place back in 1990, and that's where we're at. And I talked to him at length, and he was the one that really pushed for not putting it in because he was worried about his kids and grandkids down the road if they would have enough money without the tax base to continue to add programs or maintain what we have now.
Thank you.
And I've got a question, and again, I'm probably the dumbest guy in the room. But what you just said a few minutes ago about the property taxes off of these properties, these vacant lots, using that property tax money to support Parks and Rec. But you're also saying there's not going to be a property tax, so how would that even help down the road if you're going to abolish the property tax? Have this
Great question.
117,000 help us at all?
Great question. So the property tax, what we're looking at doing is moving the property tax, the tax off of property and collecting it at the register as a sales tax. This is already being proposed in other states. It's very, most people they appreciate that. Consumption-based tax. What we're talking about here, this is consumption-based tax. So the way that would be handled is it would be any revenue that local government receives, there'd be no reduction whatsoever to that funding. So that would be, they would still be guaranteed to that level of funding at that point in time. There's no cuts to local government, no cuts to service under that plan. It would just simply change the sales tax from 6% to 9%. 10% if we want to do away with all the sales tax when you purchase automobile, watercraft, aircraft, and RVs. Also, there would be no annual tax on those items either. So we can go to a 10% state sales tax, do away with all that, plus all the personal tangible property taxes that our businesses have to pay. A lot of people don't know this, but businesses are taxed on unsold inventory. We had a factory owner in town reach out to me. He said, Shannon, the government came in, they counted every roll of toilet paper in my employees' restrooms, and they taxed me on it. Do you think that's right? I said, no, that's not right. I actually had another word to preface that, but it's not right. Other business owners, I know when I started out as a young entrepreneur, I bought a computer and I had to go get a loan. My first loan was right here in town at Whitaker Bank, and it was for a computer. And that computer showed up on a schedule in my tax forms, and I got a bill for it, an annual tax for my computer, and then for my chair and my desk where I sit and made websites as a kid. I had to pay an annual tax on these items in my business. So all that tax will be replaced under the plan that I'm going to be proposing next session. And as far as why we got looked over, I'm told we didn't get looked over. I've had meetings with Mr. Hale. Everybody's more than welcome to travel to our capital like I do as a private citizen, to have these meetings and be engaged. I would encourage our local officials to travel to Frankfurt at least once or twice a year and have that sit-down meeting and have some bullet items and leave a copy and maybe share it online for transparency and accountability. I think that'd be a great idea. Should our state representative be at these meetings? I think that he should stop in every now and then, absolutely. I don't think that he has enough time to be at every meeting. And I'm not taking up for anyone in particular, but I just know how busy those guys are. There's a whole lot of stuff they do for about $35,000, $40,000 a year. It's a tremendous amount of work. I don't know why anybody would want to do it. But somebody has to do it. And it's just, so I'm not sure that we were overlooked. I believe that Mr. Hale fought for us just like he fought for the other counties. When I go to those counties, I hear similar stories. They feel like that we're getting all the money and that Menifee and Bath are being overlooked. I don't know. The truth's probably somewhere in the middle. But I think we all want nice things here. I think we all want beautiful parks. I was told it's a $16 million aquatic center, and there's a 3D printed model in Chris Haddock's office right now. I hope that's not true. I hope it's not a $16 million aquatic center or any type of center for $16 million. $5 million scares the daylights out of me. We're not there yet as a community. We're a small town. We have a small town festival. We're a small town. We're a tiny town compared to a lot of towns. Are we going to be bigger? Absolutely. Are we going to have nicer parks in the future? Yes, we will. But we're just not there yet. In my opinion, and in the opinion of the public, the members I talk to, I'm knocking every door. I'm going to knock 9,000 doors in my district. I'm very serious about what I'm running for, and it's because of conversations like this. And thank you, Mayor, for having this meeting at 9 a.m. Thank you for having a meeting at 5:30, because people will use it against you. We've seen it over the years. Well, they plan it in the middle of the workday, or they plan it at this time. So thank you for doing 2 meetings, and hopefully you have another meeting, maybe on a Saturday afternoon or something, where just nobody can have that reason not to be here and participate in the dialogue. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes.
Has anybody asked any of these towns that only charge 1% restaurant tax what they measure as their reason for only charging 1% and whether that's been successful for them?
Well, every town makes their own decisions based on what they feel is in their best interest.
Right, have
So
we asked?
some of
Have we
those,
asked
I've not reached
how
out
to be
to.
that successful?
Some of these towns don't have but a couple of restaurants, so
Well,
it may make a difference in what, the decisions they're making. Camargo and Jeffersonville could impose a restaurant tax if they wanted to. They just haven't. They haven't made that
Have we
decision.
asked
So
them if that's been successful for them?
I can speak of mine. I have Phil, it's our Phil Gross, our director, and he talked to me yesterday that he has reached out, and a lot of those that are less than 3% are subsidized by the city and county government, the fiscal court and the city council. So what it would go to is they get part of their funding from the restaurant tax at 1%. The rest of it comes from property taxes and occupational taxes from the city and county government.
I think
So you're saying
Bardstown-
they're subsidizing the restaurants?
Yes.
They're subsidizing their recreation and tourism through their city budgets, is what he said.
Yeah. It comes
So Bardstown's is an example, I believe. They're 1%. They collect 1%, and then the city is also collecting money. That 1% plus what the city has, they give to recreation.
But their population is almost double ours.
Every community makes the decisions that they feel are in their best interest, man.
But you're asking us to pay 3% at half that population, and they're getting by with 1%, so how?
Yeah, they're getting subsidized by your tax dollars and other directions, you're getting off your
Those
property taxes,
13,000
occupational
people are
taxes.
paying the 13,000 people are paying property taxes to help fund what's going on in their communities.
Which, you know, based on what Shannon said, if we just do a blanket consumer's tax, it makes a lot more sense than just charging restaurant owners.
Restaurant tax is a consumption tax, so.
And again, what we're looking at, and again, I was totally against, you know, this tax. I'm not saying I'm 100% for it now, but I do see as a board member where money's going now, what we're doing now, the programs we're having. And I think the point of the restaurant tax, and again, I'm not educated, I'm just speaking from my heart. I think the point of the restaurant tax is to get more tax dollars from out of county visitors than the city of Montgomery, or Mount Sterling and Montgomery County having to foot the whole tax bill. That's just my understanding.
Can I give a quick closing, 30 seconds?
Absolutely.
Because I know Rodney and I had to say a lot. What really makes me happy is the new board members that we have on Park and Rec. These guys are sharp. It gives me the confidence that it's going to be managed well and properly. Because in my opinion, being a former board member, it wasn't. So I appreciate the changes that were made with the new board members. I have very well confidence in the new director. I feel bad for Tracy because it's like if Tracy has 2 children and you're giving one child a $20 allowance every week, just the next day to take $19 of that allowance and give to the other child that week. That's what's happening with you. The money that we're collecting is going to tourism, but most of it's allocated to Park and Rec. Me as personally being a board member and also a citizen, knowing your capabilities and your board, I hope that your revenue income at least doubles and there's more of a fair percent that goes to tourism, because I really think there's a need for that. And, you know, moving forward, whether it goes on or not, I think that will impact our community tremendously.
Thank you.
I
Sabrina, yes.
forgot one quick question.
That's fine, yeah, absolutely.
It's been brought to my attention that we received a slush fund from Rumpke in $1 million plus. Do our recreation, tourism, all that, do they get any of that? Or where does that money go?
Well, so the city receives no money from Rumpke, so that's county, yeah, you're talking about the county.
But it's our county,
The judge needs to answer how he allocates that revenue.
but do you all get any of that? No.
I mean, not that I'm aware
Well, I mean, where your money comes from, the county's very kind to you.
of. The
It
county,
gives, how much last year?
$10,000 a year.
But where that originated from, I can't tell if the judge got it from landfill or from property taxes or from occupational. The judge needs to say where he gave them
As far as the Parks and
$10,000.
Rec Board, if we have a special project, we have got money from the fiscal court and the city before on special projects.
This year, the fiscal court, is it 37, 38? How much, is it 50? The fiscal court is making a donation to help Parks and Rec out on the lights.
Okay.
So they're trying to.
We live in the county, I mean, we don't even live in the city. We enjoy everything, and it's like, you all should, it's the county, even though it's inside the city, you all should benefit as well. All I'm saying.
And we appreciate the $10,000 a year that the county allocates toward tourism, because we do advertise. The city has most of the things to advertise, obviously, it's where all the attractions mostly. But we do put Mount Sterling, Montgomery County on everything.
Yes.
So with the 10,000, that's very appreciated. I appreciate it, and that has just happened in the last 3 years. So before that, we didn't get any.
Okay.
Okay, good question. Anything else from anyone? All very productive conversations. I appreciate everybody's input. We'll record this. Like I said, this will be on the website for you to be able to view later. And then we have another public forum scheduled for 5:30 this evening. You're welcome back. If you are planning on coming back, just know that the first 20 minutes will be the mayor kind of laying out facts, and then, so if you have to be late, you won't miss anything, we'll open it back up and allow everybody to speak. So, thank you very much for being here today.